The story of Jesus Christ is an incredibly familiar one to anyone who is acquainted with Christianity and the Bible. However, the historical period in which Jesus lived was one that is also of great interest to historians and archaeologists, and finding evidence of early Christianity through religious texts and artefacts is just as exciting to historical scholars as it is to religious scholars. Whether it is undiscovered texts that shed some light onto the society and culture surrounding the rise of Christianity, or definitively dating a holy site, archaeologists are always making new and interesting discoveries. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be looking at 3 recent Jesus discoveries and unpacking what they mean for both history and religion alike. The hidden gospel of Jesus' childhood. The story of Jesus Christ according to the Bible is a familiar one that has been told many times, but many people are unaware of the set of documents known as the Gnostic Gospels, which were compiled by the Gnostic people and first uncovered in 1945 in the Lower Nile River Valley. More documents were uncovered through the following decades, and there are now 52 identified texts comprising 13 books of extra-biblical stories and teachings that are markedly different from what is contained in the New Testament. Although many Christians doubt the provenance of these documents and do not consider them to be sacred religious texts in any way that the books of the Bible are, others believe that they offer an incredibly valuable insight into what the world looked like as Christianity began to emerge. One of these texts is a shocking account called the Infancy Gospel of Thomas, which dates back to the 2nd century and provides what many Christians believe to be a heretical account of the childhood and youth of Jesus Christ from ages 5 to 12. When reading the content of this Infancy Gospel of Thomas, it is easy to see why Christians view it as heretical, as the Jesus portrayed in its pages bears little to no resemblance to the loving, gracious Son of God accounted for in the Bible. In these texts, young Jesus is precocious and often vindictive as he exerts his power and authority on the people around him and slowly learns to use his influence for good. He uses a young boy who destroys pools of water Jesus had created to wither away until he passed away from life, while instantly slaying a child who bumped his shoulder before blinding his parents. He also pushes back against authority figures in his life, including his father Joseph, whose attempts to discipline him were ineffective, and several teachers were humiliated in their attempts to educate the young Jesus. However, these acts of cruelty are interspersed with gracious miracles, including the resurrection of several people and the healing of many others. Interestingly, the Infancy Gospel of Thomas is structured in a way that is consistent with many of the teaching texts of the time, with 3 miracles followed by a lesson taught through Jesus himself. Many scholars feel that this text is an attempt to show the humanity of Jesus as a child learning to handle the expectations and powers that he has while following the teachable miracles formula associated with ancient texts. So, why is this document important if Christians do not consider it to be an accurate or even a true retelling of Jesus' childhood? Despite its non-canonical contents, these ancient texts are still historical documents written by ancient people, and the careful study of these texts can give scholars and historians a glimpse into what early Christians believed that the childhood of Jesus might have looked like. Whether one believes in the events depicted in these texts or not, the Gnostic Gospels are still a fascinating historical account of early people, and historians are constantly hoping that more ancient texts will be revealed. Scientists find tomb of Jesus Christ is older than people thought. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre, deep in the old city of Jerusalem, is an incredibly important and sacred place for Christians the world over because worshippers believe that it contains 2 of the holiest sites in Christianity. The first of these is the site where Jesus was crucified, and the second is what is thought to be Jesus' empty tomb, where he was famously buried and subsequently resurrected. The tomb, which consists of an ancient limestone cave surrounded by the church that was built to enclose the holy place, is incredibly ancient. However, scholars have recently contested long-held ideas about exactly how ancient the location is. Previous estimates of the limestone that makes up the cave had dated the site to 1,000 years ago, around the time of the Crusader period, but more recent tests and archaeological evaluations place the site at over 1,700 years old, dating back to AD 345. This recent analysis was performed by testing the chemicals in the archaeological remains in order to determine when they were last exposed to light, and these results align with what is commonly believed about the location of the tomb of Jesus Christ, providing further evidence to support that this truly is the correct archaeological location of utmost historical importance to Christianity. An archaeological study performed slightly earlier also found that the tomb had never been moved, further strengthening the evidence. This study comes as the tomb was opened for public viewing for the first time in hundreds of years, so that scientists and archaeologists could work on restoring a shrine within the tomb known as the edicule, which allowed opportunities for more thorough studies than ever before to take place. Historically, there are several ancient accounts that claim that Constantine I, who was the Roman emperor who made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire and encouraged large-scale monuments for Christ, located and protected the tomb. Previously, because the tomb was destroyed and rebuilt in 1099, many historians had doubts about whether it truly was the same site that the Romans had identified and discovered. But according to this recent archaeological discovery, which updates the age of the tomb by approximately 700 years, the tomb protected within the Church of the Holy Sepulchre could very likely be the famous tomb involved in the Easter story of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Dan Bahat, a former city archaeologist for Jerusalem, has stated that we may not be absolutely certain that the Holy Sepulchre Church is the site of Jesus' burial, but we certainly have no other site that can lay a claim nearly as weighty. And the site certainly boasts an impressive archaeological significance, regardless of its provenance. Hopefully, future studies and analyses will be able to tell us more about the history of this amazing location. Papyrus found in a mummy mask may be the oldest known copy of a gospel. The carefully preserved mummies of ancient Egypt can tell us a lot about how people lived long ago, as well as elements of ancient culture. However, sometimes these mummies can reveal surprising glimpses into the past that make even seasoned archaeologists take a second look. In one recent instance, a team of researchers discovered a fragment of what is believed to be a copy of the biblical Gospel of Mark within the papyrus mask. Although there have been several discoveries of fragments of early biblical texts, this discovery appears to date all the way back to 90 AD, which is significantly earlier than any other Gospel text so far discovered. Previously, the award for oldest fragment belonged to a piece of the Gospel of John, which had been dated back to 200 AD, making this new discovery over 100 years older. This fragment was able to be dated by comparing it to the other texts and papyrus scraps that were found inside the mummy mask and then analyzing these results along with the handwriting of the documents. Carbon dating was also performed to add to and further verify these results. Additionally, some of the texts that were found alongside the Gospel of Mark have been deemed historically significant as well, including classical Greek texts, business papers, personal letters, philosophical texts, and even copies of stories by Homer, the famous Greek poet. So what was a fragment of the Gospel of Mark doing inside of a mummy's burial mask? The answer is not as mysterious as you might think. The elaborate ornamentation and gold sarcophagus that many envision when they think of ancient Egyptian mummies was only typical of the very wealthy class. Those who could not afford such luxuries used a technique involving papyrus, glue, and paint, often using recycled papyrus to further decrease the expense, similar to modern-day merchants using newspaper to wrap items. It was one of these mummies that contained the fragment of the Gospel of Mark that so excited scientists, which was revealed through a technique that carefully removes the glue without marring the words underneath. This can be a controversial technique because the process of restoring the papyrus leaves the original mummy mask destroyed, and there is much debate about the value of ruining a historical artifact on the off chance that something valuable is printed on it. But at least in this case, The efforts certainly paid off, leading to an exciting breakthrough for researchers. Although the actual words that were revealed on the papyrus have not been published yet, they are set to be released in a volume with other texts retrieved from masks so that other researchers can further analyze the results, hopefully leading to a final decision regarding the authenticity of these important documents. But what do you make of these recent discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.